Hi, how are you? And thank you very much for joining me tonight. I'm Roberta Calacino, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator here in the Finger Lakes region of upstate New York. And I'm just looking to see if I'm here yet. No, not yet, I'm not. It says I'm live. Okay, let's check. My phone says one thing, my computer's telling me a different thing. Oh, there I am. Okay. So I'm coming to you live tonight with a free crafting class like I do every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock here on 11 Lakes Stamper Creatives. And tonight I'm bringing you two very different things. So I said something old, something new, and maybe something blue. I really started out just typing something old, something new, and then I thought about the something blue. So I sort of have something blue, but it's really just to show you something. It's not a full card. But technically I have something blue. So we will turn the camera down and we'll get started. Excuse me. So, hello Barbara, how are you? It's been a while since I've seen you. Nice for you to join me. All right, so we're going to turn things around. And then make a couple of adjustments like I always do. I don't mind if you see some of my mess. I just don't want you to see too much of it. If that makes any sense at all. Pardon my finger in there. Okay, so I've got, I have quite a mess over here. Don't know where that came from. Okay, good enough. It will do. One of these days you'll be surprised by a totally clear surface. But don't expect that anytime too soon. Okay, so this is my host code for the month of August, which is rapidly ending, and I don't know about where all of you are, but where I am, we've had some very kind of fall-like weather when a week and a half ago I was in the pool almost every day and it was in the high 80s. So I don't know exactly what's happening out there, but I'd like a little more of summer if we could, please. That's my request. If you do place an order in the month of August, please use this host code. But if your order is more than $150 before tax and shipping, then please do not use the host code because you will get some rewards, and I certainly want you to have those. All right, I'm realizing I have to go to work high today. All right, so this is the name of this Facebook group, and it's a public group, and this is my email address should you want to contact me for any reason. So there's that. And so the Designer Series paper sale is still going on, 15% off of almost all Designer Series paper. I do have this particular document linked in the group so that you can see it up close. So it does not include the 6x6 in color or color family papers. It does include some specialty Designer Series paper. I'm looking to make sure I'm not lying to you. Maybe it doesn't. Okay, so it does not include the specialty Designer Series paper, and that's usually something that's very special. It may have metallics in it, or gold or silver, or it may have, some of our new packs have actually ephemera that you can punch out. It's already not punched like with a punch, but just poke out. It's already die cut for you. So those things are not on sale. And this is all the stuff that's in the annual catalog, just to make that clear too. But 15% off is great, and it's a good time to stock up on things. All right, Barbara, I understand. I just lost my phone a minute ago, but the battery is okay. All right, so this is my monthly calendar. This has prompts for you, and it's also got some opportunities to win some prizes, so take a look at that. Bonus days are over. However, just a reminder, if you placed an order in July, anything over $50 before shipping and handling, you would have earned bonus points. You would have earned coupons, which they would have emailed you in your email, and you would have to save those numbers. But you have until the end of August to use those, or they will expire. So be careful for that, okay? And I thought there was one more thing, but maybe not. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. And I guess I should just kind of lead with this. Oh, where did I put it? That would be bad if I lost the new catalog already. I was just looking at it like 6 minutes ago, honestly. I put things down like to my left or my right. Oh, here it is. So the new catalog, which I still cannot show you the inside of, and I'm very sorry. Hey, Mary Kay, you're just down the road from my place. You know, we should talk sometime. If you go to Fort Lauderdale often, you could stay there sometime. When I'm not there, obviously, because when I'm there, I usually have company and we're all full. But you could stay there sometime. We'll have to talk about that. Okay, so the September to December mini catalog, which goes live on September 4th, I believe it is. Yes, September 4th, and runs until January 6th. That's going to go live really soon, but I still can't show you the inside. But I placed an order and got a bunch of things from this catalog. But first I'm going to be showing you, well, I'll show you the suite. I'll show you what I bought. I wish I could open the catalog, but, you know, I don't want to get in trouble. So I won't open the catalog, but I don't always buy suites. I think you've heard me say that before. Sometimes I don't buy them because they're pricey, and sometimes I don't buy them because I don't necessarily need or want everything in the suite. So this is what some people call a mega suite or a super suite, and the reason for that is because it comes with 2 bundles. So you will get the Peaceful Season bundle, which comes with these dies. And these dies are pretty amazing because aside from the word Christmas that you can die cut out and an outline that you can put a different color paper behind it, it's got all of these label dies which you will have to use forever no matter what. And even though not every sentiment, I'm trying to think, I think there's a die for almost every sentiment in here. Maybe this one I'm not positive of. We'll have to play with that a little, and I don't know if I'll have time tonight. But they're beautiful dies, and this one here on the, well, actually both of them, they're 2 different sizes. This one, come on, where are you? There we go. This one here, this kind of, I was going to call it a circular square, but that sounds like such a contradiction, but you know what I mean. It's like a square with rounded corners. It has little pieces here that are cut out where you can string ribbon through them. So you could use this for a label on packaging. You could use it for a tag. You could use it for just a label on a card, but you could run ribbon through one side or both sides. So that's really cool. We haven't had anything quite like that in a while, at least not that I can recall. So that's one bundle, okay, the Peaceful Season bundle. The other bundle is the Peaceful Evergreens bundle. So this one has this beautiful stamp set. A lot of us have been trying to figure out exactly what this is, and I think they're like snow drifts or maybe snow with the wind blowing. It looks to me like snow being blown. And then here's some actual snow, and it looks, you know, they all look a little bit different, so that looks kind of cool too. And then that one comes with these dies, so there's actually 2 sheets of dies that will cut out 3 different size trees, an outline of a tree that you've stamped, but we'll also cut these out, which is different. So I'll show you in a minute. You could use one of the Designer Series papers to cut out a thin tree with this, and then you would have a variation of colors. And then we have this one, which I thought, I'm not sure what that's supposed to do, but I think I have it figured out, and I'll show you in a minute. And then there were these dies. This one, this one, this one, and this one, that at first I looked at this one and said, well, that looks like a bow, but what the heck? I finally figured that out as well, and I'll show you that tonight too, even though I may not actually be making a card with it, but I want you to kind of know what they are. So there's these 2 bundles, and then there is a 3D embossing folder called the Painted Trees embossing folder, and you can probably get a better idea of it here, what it embosses. This is not a, not the embossing folder that cuts and embosses. It just embosses. But you could certainly have some fun with some different techniques, and I haven't tried them yet, but you can certainly use like a sponge dauber in here, and you can, there's something in there that doesn't belong there. You can dab different colors on here so you get some different depth of the colors. There's a lot that you can probably do with this. I played around with a little bit, but not to the full extent. So we have 2 bundles. We have an embossing folder. We have the Designer Series paper, which I'll show you in a minute. It's under here. We have this really, really pretty cherry cobbler and gold ribbon. It's narrow. I would say it's, they usually tell you, let's see. Cherry cobbler and gold, and it is 1/4 of an inch wide, and it's considered a satin ribbon. Very pretty and very soft, so I think it will tie bows really, really nicely. So I liked that. So, I was looking at it and okay, I'm liking everything. And then there are these gold textured adhesive dots. And it really is a little hard to see the texture in the package. And it might be even on a card or on camera. But they have a little texture to them, and they have like a little glimmer in the center of them. So all of that came with this. So that, to me, made it kind of worth the effort, worth the expense. Very often, I like one bundle better than the other, so I'll just buy one bundle. If there's an embossing folder, I might buy that. If there's DSP that I really like, I might buy that. It's not very often that I buy an entire suite, because it's usually, if it's a double one like this, I can't remember exactly what I paid for it, and I probably don't want to remind myself what I paid for it. But, it was well over $100. I can guarantee that. And it's a reasonable price for everything you get. Dies are expensive, but I just don't always feel a need to do it. So this is the Designer Series paper, and it is a specialty paper. And it has 12 sheets, 2 each of 6 designs, and all of these colors. And there isn't a color here I don't like. Basic Beige, Cherry Cobbler, Crumb Cake, Gray Granite, Lost Lagoon, Mossy Meadow, Old Olive, Pretty Peacock, Real Red, and Gold. Cherry Cobbler is probably one of my favorite colors to use at Christmas time. And I try to almost reserve it for Christmas time to make it special, because Real Red you can use anytime. I'm not saying I won't use it, but Cherry Cobbler to me is a Christmas color. And I love the way Cherry Cobbler and Crumb Cake look together. Lost Lagoon is kind of new, to being used for this. Pretty Peacock is a returning color, so is Lost Lagoon, but that was kind of before my time. So there's nothing in here that I don't like. And one side of the paper has gold foiling on it. So that's what we call the A side. You can see the gold, I hope, when I turn this a little bit. And then underneath it, on the other side, also has gold foiling, but gold foiling and Basic Beige. So it's the same, wait, no, that's not right. Hang on. No, I lied. Hang on. I knew that was wrong, because both sides never have gold foiling on them, or hardly ever. So this was so textured looking that I actually touched it to see if it had texture. I knew it probably didn't, but I had to touch it. This looks like it was painted with a palette knife, so where your paint goes on really thick, and there are 2 different colors in here, and it's just beautiful. Then there's the same kind of thing, but with a slightly different design, and this is Basic Beige with the gold. And then on the other side is just Basic Beige. This one doesn't look quite as textured. This one almost looks like it was painted on a canvas, and you can actually see the canvas underneath, which means to me it probably was painted on a canvas by one of the Stampin' Up! Concept artists, and then it was photographed. This one, I believe, is the Cherry Cobbler. Sometimes I get them mixed up. No, I can't tell yet for sure. I think this is the Cherry Cobbler, and this one has the gold going right down the middle. So this, again, could be really great for for scrapbooking, but also for card making, where you cut it right down the middle at 6 inches, and then you can have this as the bottom or the top of your card base, and you could easily make 6 cards out of this, depending on how you cut it. All right, and then there is this one, which is the red, and this one looks pretty textured as well. This one looks more like the palette knife kind of thing. I don't feel like I see the canvas under this one. And then there's this one, which must be the Old Olive, or did I say there was another green? Now I'm doubting myself. Oh, Mossy Meadow. So this might actually be the Old Olive, and the other one I showed you, yeah, this is the Mossy Meadow because it's darker. So this is the Old Olive, and even though they say it's Old Olive, they show a couple of different tones of the same color. So there's Old Olive, but then Old Olive lightened up a bit. And I can see canvas underneath this. So that's very cool. And then the other side is more like striations, and this one doesn't necessarily look painted at all, maybe a little bit dry brushed. If you're into painting at all, you might know what that means. And then this is the Pretty Peacock for sure. Pretty Peacock in gold. And then underneath that We've got this that almost looks like it might have been like allowed to drip. The paint might have been allowed to drip. And I can see the canvas under that too. So again, it's all pretty peacock, but several different tones or shades of it. And then this, well, now I don't know. Oh, the other one was probably crumb cake, sorry. This one probably is, it is. This one is the basic beige. The slightly darker one was crumb cake. Lots of gold on this one, almost as much gold as the beige. And then here is the back side of it, where I see lots of canvas showing through and just kind of brush strokes. So it's just gorgeous, gorgeous paper, and I don't think I'm going to use any of this tonight. I have 3 packs of it. I got to be honest. I got 1 pack for free. I got 1 pack with the suite, which isn't free, but it comes with the suite. And then I bought a 3rd pack because I'm going to use this for a display that I'm doing at an upcoming event, and I'm going to use it also for swaps that I'm involved in. Okay, so let's get to the first card. So the first card is made with the hexagon punch. And now I'm looking because I didn't get the stamp set out because I wasn't using the stamp. And I don't see it, which is interesting, which means it's probably on my desk buried under something. So this came in a bundle with the Heartfelt Hexagon stamp set, which is a really neat stamp set. It has some sentiments, and not a lot, and then it has some labels that will fit this and sort of make an outline on this. But I was remembering the other day, looking through some cards of mine, because a friend has offered to sell some of my cards on an online shop of hers. So I was looking through, and I realized that I made a card similar to the one I'm going to show you back when we had the actual hexagon punch for like a small hexagon, like maybe 1.5 inches, maybe. I made a card like this with that. I made a card like this with the postage stamp punch, which is a little bit different because of the shape. And I made a card like this with the tailored tag punch, which is kind of like this, but only pointy and elongated. So I thought I should try it with this punch as well, because I've had this punch for I don't know how long, well over a year, maybe even 2, I can't keep track. And I haven't used it yet, and I don't know why. And this is a really fun thing to do with scrap designer series paper, or with retired or older designer series paper. So I did go into my scraps of retired designer series paper to do this. So I started out by punching out, I took like maybe 3 or 4 different designs, and of course remember our paper is 2-sided. And then what I did was I started punching out hexagons. All right, so I used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 full hexagons, and then I was able to fill in the blanks. So it's kind of like a patchwork card. With this one, I decided that I was going to put this floral image kind of as the center, and the only issue with that was that another thing that you can do if you think something like this is too busy, depending on the DSP that you're using, is you could make some of them just cardstock. So maybe over here you would just have a piece of fresh freesia cardstock, and maybe over here you would just have a piece of crushed curry cardstock. Okay, so after I did that, I did not cut it down yet, but I would have to if I was going to do this. I thought, what are the colors in this DSP? And I said, well, I see fresh freesia, so I could mount it on a fresh freesia card base, or I could mount it on a fresh freesia layer. That's hard to say. And then I thought, well, if you wanted to pop, maybe something darker. So I also see Night of Navy in here. And I kind of liked it with the Night of Navy. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that I have to have another background. I could just put it on a Night of Navy card base. Or I could put it on a white card base. And if I were going to do a double layer, then what I would have to do is trim this down to, instead of 4 and 5 1/4 like I did, I would have to cut it down to 3 3/4 by 5. So I'm going to do that, but I don't want to take too much off of any one side. So I'm going to take like a little bit from one side and a little bit from the other, I think. Yeah, like maybe 1/8 of an inch from each side. So I'm taking like 1/8 of an inch off there, and then I'm going to turn it around and take another 1/8 of an inch off of here so that now it will be 3 3/4. And yes, it would be better if I had done this first, only with respect to these little itty bitty pieces on the side, which I might not have even needed if I had done that first. So now this I want to be 5, so I'm going to take a little bit, same thing, 1/8 of an inch off of one end and then 1/8 of an inch off the other until we have 5. So at this point you're barely seeing those little ends, but I guess you would need them because there would be a blank spot there if you didn't have them. Now I can put this at 5 and cut 1/8 of an inch off that end. And you know, the glue is dried because I made this a while ago. So whenever I made that, the glue is dry. Now I just need to make sure that this is the right size because I think it was a scrap. Well, okay, yep, it is. So that's just me. You might prefer to use the fresh freesia. You might prefer to use I think that's garden green, old olive. You could use whatever color you want as long as it appears in at least one of these pieces. There's Pretty Peacock too, which appears in these little flowers. But I like the blue because I just thought it gave it more of a pop. And I like when the colors pop off the page. So we're going to go ahead and put this card together. I'm going to have to keep reminding myself to work up here. Either that or I'm going to have to adjust my camera again. Work a little higher up, which means I'm sort of stretching my arms in a way they don't necessarily want to go. Didn't get any glue in that corner or that corner. You always want to get your corners down no matter what. And I think against a white card base, this will really pop, but I could choose to use another color. Maybe I would use the fresh freesia as a card base, or I think that's, well, actually, I think that's the Blushing Bride, which we don't have anymore, and this might be Blushing Bride too, but Pretty in Pink would work too. All right, so let's see. I have a bunch of my thick, basic white cardstock here, and it really is thick. And I'm just kind of forcing myself to use it up because, to be quite honest with you, I don't really feel a need. People keep saying you need to make your cards with thick because if you make it with thick, then your card will be sturdier. And I don't have a problem with my cards being sturdy. So here's what I might say. If you were doing a SIP card where you just had stamping and no layers, maybe that would be a good time to use this. And I also, because this is so thick, it was a little hard to score and burnish down, so I got it a little lopsided, but I don't think it'll matter too much. So if you're making just a real simple card with no layers, then maybe the thick is a good idea. If you're adding multiple layers, which I tend to do with a lot of my cards, then I think you're fine. So these are all cut to go in this direction for a different project, and then they were leftovers, so the card's going to open the other way, which I think is just fine. So now the other thing that I'll show you in a second when I turn this over is because I decided that I wanted that daisy to be kind of the focal point in the middle, I can't put my sentiment in the middle. Now there's nothing in the world that says your sentiment has to be in the middle of a card. So I might make it in a circle or I might make it in a strip on the bottom because it can't go in the center. All right, now, just because I'm sure somebody's going to ask, I will show you. So that's card number 1. I will show you. I've got my silicone mat out here with a cat hair on it. And I'm going to show you how I did that. So this is also retired paper. This is the retired in-color paper for the in-colors that just went out. The Tahitian Tide and Sweet Sorbet and Orchid Oasis and Parakeet Party. So I just took a couple of those 6x6 sheets. And then what I thought I would do, because I'm not good at centering things or getting things in the middle, to be honest with you, I thought I would mark this on the half line. So it's like 2 one way, and I forget what it was, but I just took out my my ruler and marked the halfway point. And I did that because I can line this up here, and it still may not be perfect because I don't even use a ruler as perfectly as you should. But by knowing that your centerpiece, the first piece that you put on, is centered, how Hi, Amy, how are you? It's okay if you're late. I was almost late myself. I couldn't find my phone. By having that centered, then that just makes everything else okay. So I'm going to do what I've said before, what I call dry fitting, because I want to make sure, just decide which colors I want where. I'm going to use that line as a guide because I want about 1/8 of an inch between them. So in the spaces this way and the spaces this way, I want to use both sides. So this is the other side of that. And I'm going to put that here and bring it down so I have that spacing there. Now I've got, let's see, 2 of these. All right, so same paper both sides, so I want to possibly use both sides. And then I've got this. So sometimes I think, is it really okay for 2 of the same color to be touching? And then I think, get a life. It doesn't matter, especially since they're different patterns. They're the same color, but they're different patterns. So maybe I'll bring this one over here and then bring this one over here. Now I may or may not find a need for this one. Okay, in fact, actually, now that I think about it, no, I think I'm going to leave this because it's a little bit lighter, and I'll show you why. So what I'm going to do is just kind of, hang on, I really do have to move this, because if I don't, I have to keep looking up and making sure that I'm in the right place so that you can see it, because I tend to like to work a little bit closer to me than that. So now I'm going to take these and set them off in the different directions so I know where to put them, and I'm going to start out by putting this down here. So that'll be my first one, and that'll make it kind of goof-proof. So I'm going to use these little points here to line that part of it up on the halfway line, and then sort of just eyeball this other area. And the points will at least let me know that it's level, and that helps too. Okay, so then with this one here, I know that some of it is going to end up hanging off. So I'm going to grab that part of it and have my fingers there. That's how I can remember that I don't want to put any glue there. I have it on a silicone sheet in case I goof up and I do end up with some glue there. I don't necessarily need the silicone sheet because I have this other sheet here, which is like Teflon or something, that I use most of the time when I'm crafting. So that would protect my surface. But again, if you're doing this on, some antique piece of furniture or a good table or whatever, then it's really a good idea to get that silicone underneath you. All right, so now this one's going to go here. And again, I'm going to have some hanging off there, so that's where I'm going to hold it on that side. And I think this one's a little bit closer to half, but when we're all done, I can go back and just lift this up and get some glue under it if it looks like I haven't gotten enough. So that's not a problem. So now that hangs off, and I think I did pretty well, but maybe I need a little more, and we'll see. I'll let that dry first. Now this one is going to go here, and same thing. I want it to go here. I don't want any glue there, so I turn it over. I keep my thumb there. My thumb reminds me not to put any glue too far up. And then we'll get that in place. If you leave a little more or a little less space, it's not a disaster, believe me. So here I'm closer to the line, here I'm further from the line, but it's, it's okay. So this one's going to go next on this side. All right, I'm going to flip it over and keep my thumb there, and that reminds me not to put glue there. Okay, and then we have these 2 left, so same thing, flip it over and keep my thumb where I don't want glue. So I do have people, when they see these type of patchwork cards, just saying, I don't get how you do that. So obviously there's stuff hanging off the edges, and that is just fine. So I want this side facing up, so I'm going to flip that over and put glue here. I had to think about that one for a second for some reason. It just didn't seem quite as obvious. right, and then we're going to do the same thing here. So now, before I do anything else, I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to take my snips. Not every scissor will work as well to do this, and I really do mean that. I'm not just saying it. The snips do work well. There's something about them. There's like a little angle. I'm not sure what it is, but they cut right up against the edge without cutting your other paper. I don't feel like I'm holding them at an angle necessarily, but they just seem to do the work. And they are very, very sharp, which is mostly a good thing, but can be a bad thing, so use them with caution, and don't let little kids play with them. Just because they're little scissors doesn't mean they're for kids. Definitely not for kids. Okay, so now I have all of these pieces left over, and it may be that I won't need that at all. But I'll tell you why I think I will. I think I will because these longer ones don't work in the corners. No matter what you do, they just don't seem quite right in the corners. So it may be that I'll be able to use these, but not those longer ones, okay? So I think I'll come down here with this one. Now, if your pattern was directional and you keep moving it around to glue it someplace, pay attention to the directions, because that other one definitely had some direction, at least on these little flowers. So I had to keep really paying attention to that. With this one, I don't have to pay attention quite so much. So this time, because the area is so small, I'm just going to put the glue on the area and not on the paper at all. Just stay away from those margins that I want to keep. And then I can put that there and squeeze it over there to get that space that I want. And now that one's done. And I can just go right ahead. If I can pick up my scissors, I can go right ahead. And I can trim that. There you go. And then I can use, so now I need to start thinking about this. What I'm going to do with that. So I probably want the purple here, maybe, just so it won't be too much purple in one area. Again, I don't think it's a huge thing. It isn't for me, but who knows. You do it the way you think it looks best, because we all have different ideas about things, and that's great. Now, the only thing I was thinking is that I don't know, maybe somewhere, but I don't know how much, if any, of these in colors I have left in cardstock, and I didn't really want to go digging for them. So this one I might put right on white, or I might just not put it on anything for the time being, as long as you've seen how I made it. All right, so I'm probably wasting a little bit, but I wanted to cut it in half just to make sure that I had enough, not that I really need half. And then we'll get that one on. And then maybe for this one, I'll use the other side again. And then we'll just go ahead and trim those off. And I would say for the most part that these scraps are now not going to be good for anything. Unless I wanted to do tiny die cuts out of them. And honestly, I have enough paper that I don't have to worry about that. So these will go in the recycling bin. I know some of you think I never get rid of anything, but I don't see any point in saving anything that small. I truly don't. Okay, so now the only thing that could be different here, and this is the opposite of what I did on the other one, was that I could, I'm looking for a scrap because I don't want to really just use a whole big piece, and I thought I had some scraps. So this is how I keep my scraps. I have a bunch of these that I ordered from Amazon, and I have them labeled. So this one is basic white and very vanilla. And then I have reds and pinks and oranges, yellows, greens, blues, a whole bunch of different things. So let's see if this one will work. It looks like it might be a little bit too narrow. Yeah, it's not going to work. Because then I have some big ones in here and I kind of hate to use them. And then there was something like this that I did something on, and obviously I didn't like something about the way it came out. So I actually can go ahead and use that part that has the flowers on it. Looks like something from, what is that one? Regency something, I don't know. Can't remember now. As you can see, I have the most scraps in the white and the vanilla because those are the colors I use the most for card bases and for labels and stuff like that, but I have plenty of other ones. So if I wanted to, I could stamp a sentiment on this and just put this over that. If I wanted to, I could maybe do a little offset thing so we can still see some of that. So, or I could have just put, like I said, if I had the cardstock, I could put a piece of Parakeet Party cardstock here and stamp a sentiment in black or gray right on that. So there are lots of options, but I just wanted you to see how I did that, okay? All right, so next we get to the suite that I've been talking about, although again, I'm not going to use all of the things in the suite. So yesterday I had some oral surgery, and you know what the man neglected to tell me going into this surgery? Because this was like a big thing for me. He neglected to tell me that I couldn't eat solid food for 10 days. 10 days. And I had just gone grocery shopping and bought all kinds of things that you need teeth for. I figured my teeth would be down for a couple of days, but no, 10 days. This was like laser surgery, and I guess that makes it different. So I'm not happy, and I didn't have a lot in the freezer. And then my car died, just totally stopped working, and it's been to dealerships now from Florida to Georgia, and then 2 different dealerships in New York, and they all tell me there's nothing wrong with it. Now, they're not saying that they don't believe me or that I'm some crazy female who doesn't know what she's talking about. They're very clear about that, but they can't find it. So today, this is the first dealership that said he was going to just reset a bunch of the computer settings on the car and see if that made a difference. Of course, it started up for him the second day it was there anyway, even though it wouldn't start for me, right? But that's how that always goes, isn't it? So I've been very distracted by that, and then this, so I didn't get to go shopping either because I had to return the loaner card that they gave me. So I've been eating, I ate the 2 yogurts that I had left. Last night I literally put my chicken dish that I make, my Mediterranean chicken, in a food processor and ate it like, you know, baby food almost. And even though I don't even think I was supposed to have that, but I think as long as I swallowed it whole, didn't chew, it was okay. So anyway, I've just been a little out of it. So here are 3 beautiful colors, all great winter colors. I certainly think that Old Olive is a color that can be used year-round. Then this one is Pretty Peacock, which I guess can be used, any of them can be used year-round, but sometimes I think of some of these as holiday colors. And then this is Shaded Spruce, and we all know lots of, spruce trees, that's a real thing. And it's kind of the spruce trees that we had near my house when I was growing up, there were 3 big ones that separated our house from the neighbor's house. It was kind of like a fence almost that separated our 2 driveways. The only reason we did that was because they had 6 kids. And at one time, every kid had a car, plus Dad and Mom had a car. They didn't at least have each of their own, I don't think. So there were like 7 cars in their driveway most of the time. So we had this tree that kind of separated that. And it was a blue spruce, and it was beautiful. But then I started thinking, what if I wanted this to be a blue spruce tree with snow on it? So I took out my Whisper White pad, which somehow has a little bit of blue ink on it. It almost looks like something, I don't know, because it looks like it got spattered. So I might have done some splattering and forgotten to close my ink pad. So now you know why you should never do that. And actually, I'm going to pick up the ink from there because if there's the tiniest bit of blue, it's not going to matter on this. And then I'm going to take the sponge dauber and really, with a super light touch, and I'm not going to go all over because you know how it is when snow lands on trees. It lands on some parts. It lands on the outer branches maybe. Right? It's easier for me to do this down on the table, but then I'll pick it up so you can see it. So this one also, this folder also, I was going to say cuts out, but it doesn't cut out anything. it depicts, how's that for a word? It depicts 3 trees, kind of a small, and then a kind of medium-ish, and then a really large tree. So I could put snow over the whole thing. Again, this would be up to personal preference. Now, one of the things that I've noticed with this Whisper White pad is that it dries lighter than it is. So what I would do is put some of it on and then let it sit for a little while and then come back and add some more. The other thing that you can do with this Whisper White pad, because it doesn't dry as quickly as the other ink pads, is you can use it for embossing. As long as you do it right away, I would probably do like 1 tree at a time. You could then put white embossing powder on top of this and make some really nice shiny snow, you know, like when the snow almost freezes on the trees. And it also depends on how you do it. So on this one, instead of dabbing, I kind of rubbed a little bit, and that was kind of a mistake because instead I got kind of a chalky look. So that's something to know, all right? Stick with the dabbing, don't do the rubbing. For other techniques, the rubbing might be great, but for this, I think it was not a good idea. All right, so I think that looks really, really pretty. The other thing I could potentially have done, but I don't know how this would work, was I was thinking, what if I took a darker color ink and made the trees darker than the background and then put the white on? And I think that might be nice, but that color, if you look at my dauber, I don't know if you can really see it, it's got a hint of blue on it from something. So obviously it picked up some color somewhere, and you really don't want that. I know a lot of people have to end up replacing these ink pads just because they got something in it that they shouldn't have. So you want to watch out for that. So I just think that looks really pretty. And again, you can't see it like when I look at it on camera, I feel like all you're seeing is the white. But the embossing is there. If I hold it down near that light, yeah, then I think you can see the texture better. On the whole, that light usually just gives me shadows, but I think it lets you see the difference. But you could do the same thing with even the same color ink possibly, and just darkening the trees up a bit. But in some cases you might want to just use this as a background for a card. All right, and if that's the case, then you probably don't want to have it too obvious. You want it to just kind of sink into the background. So if you were going to cut this, so it's interesting to me because these embossing folders, some of the new bigger ones, are 6x6. So unless you're making a 6x6 card or possibly using this, it would look beautiful like on a package perhaps, and maybe just use it as like a giant tag. That would be really pretty. But if you're putting it on a card, and unless it's a 6x6 card, so I cut this to 5.5 by 5.5 for a couple of reasons. I wanted to preserve another 5.5 side that I could use to make a card with. And also because I thought if I did want to make a 6x6 card, which you can do, then I could actually have the card base be 6x6 and this would be 5.5, and it would give me that perfect layer, you know, around the background. So I thought it could be used for different things. But if I'm using it on a typical A2 card, then I really probably have to lose this little tree over here or lose that one over there. I think you would. I'll go ahead and cut this one just so we can kind of see. And you could probably make your own choice. So if this were a hybrid embossing folder, which is what I was trying to say about 5 minutes ago, it might have dies that cut these out, in which case you could put the whole thing on a different color. Could I sort of fussy cut this out? Absolutely. And maybe I'll play with that with the other one. But if I wanted this to be like a 4, even if I made it 4.5, no, 4.25, I'd still lose part of the trees, so I don't know. So the question is, would you rather have 2 whole trees with maybe just seeing a little bit of another, or would you rather cut it from each end and have 1 tree in the middle and 2 half trees on the side? And that might depend on if you wanted to highlight this tree. So maybe you wanted to put a gold star on the top of this tree. Maybe you wanted to make it look like it had been decorated, because people do decorate outdoor trees. I'm not sure what you would what you'd be thinking. So again, think about all the different possibilities before you start hacking, because that's what I do a lot. I hack and then I say, oh geez, didn't really want to do that. So I think I'm going to cut it right on the 4-inch mark. Okay, and now I've got this other tree almost full that I could probably do something with. It would make a pretty little bookmark, or it would make a pretty little tag, so I wouldn't throw that out. This could be a nice tag. for a package or something. So I'm not going to toss that by any means. And then 4 by 5 1/4, and I think I'm going to want the 5 1/4 to come from here, or the quarter to come from there, unless you have something in mind and you want a sentiment way up top and you don't want to cover any of this. Then you might want to cut a little bit off the bottom, but I'm not worried about that right now. Oh, well, maybe I am, because if I cut it there, I'm going to cut off the top of that tree, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to do the same thing you saw me do a few minutes ago, and I'm going to cut a little bit off of there, like 1/8 of an inch, and then a little bit off of here to get my 5 1/4. Yep, it's about 1/8 of an inch off of each end. And now I still see some ground under there if it matters, but I haven't cut the top of the tree off, and I don't want to cut the top of the tree off. So there you go. So now that will fit on a regular card base. So I've got one up here. Just so you can see, you could do it on white. You could make it, if you wanted to make it smaller, like 3 3/4 by 4, and put like a layer of something else underneath, then you're going to lose something top or bottom of the tree, and you might or might not want to do that. Okay? And this one, like I said, I'm not quite sure what I would do with that. I feel like I've got to clean that up where I dragged it. So don't do that. Just dab. Dab, don't drag. I'll clean that up a little bit, and I'll add more snow to this around here and there, and maybe I'll even try some embossing and show you what that looked like, okay? So that, like I said, was just to kind of show you what that stuff might look like. Then I just wanted to show you something else, getting back to the dies for a minute, because this is precious. These were the dies I said, 1, 2, 3, and 4, that I just wasn't sure how they were going to do anything. And of course I figured it out. A little bit of playing and a little bit of feeling silly. I did figure it out. So the way this works is you cut out those pieces, and I cut them out in cherry cobbler, and this is what you get. You get a 3-dimensional bow. Now if you're going to put this on a card and send it through the mail, you could just pinch that together and just flatten it and just figure that's it. It's going to need, it's going to get flattened out anyway. Or you could hope for the best and not flatten it out totally. And if the post office flattens it, so be it. So let me show you how this works, because it's actually pretty cool. I was, however, looking for a pair of tweezers, because they would have come in really handy when I did that. And I saw the tweezers earlier today on this desk, didn't use them, and now they've disappeared. So I'm sure someone climbed in through this window and stole them, right? Okay, so you've got these 2 pieces here that are identical, and then you've got this little square, and then you've got this, which certainly does look like some kind of a ribbon. All right, so these have a right and a wrong side, and I don't know if I can get you to see that or not. So there is, okay, right there you kind of see it. There's a little like embossed shape in the middle. So you want to keep that as the front, and then take a look at the back, because the back is always kind of rough looking a little bit. No, where are we? Hello. Ah. So anyway, the back is always rough. When you die cut something, the back is typically rough, unless you're using brand new cutting plates. So here's the most important thing to know, and I think I've showed you this before with some other things. If you want to take a straight, flat piece of paper and bend it, make it curved, and you just bend it, it's going to bend. It's going to practically fold in half, and you're going to get a crack right there. So what you're going to do is hold one end and gently, and you do have to do it gently, otherwise you can still crack the paper, gently curl that like you would curl curling ribbon. All right, so I've got one curled, and now I'll do this one, and you do have to be gentle, and you do have to do it a little bit at a time, because if you do it too quickly or too harshly, you will just get another crack in the paper, a fold. So what you're doing here is you're kind of breaking down the fibers so that you can fold it or curl it without it falling apart. So the way this works is now I'm curling the not so nice looking part towards the inside, and I'm putting a little dot of glue there. And again, I'm not pressing on anything but, oh shoot, I'm frozen. I'm buffering. Okay, there I am again. I was buffering for a minute there. So I'm lining up these 2 circles at the end, and I'm pinching them. I'm not pinching this at all. If I pinch that, that defeats everything I just did. So I'm only pinching the 2 circles. And if they're not lined up exactly perfectly, don't make yourself crazy over it, okay? Because they're going to be hidden anyway. So I looked at a picture in the catalog of a card made with this. Couldn't quite figure out if the circle part went on the back of the tail of the bow part or in the front, but I didn't like the way it looked to the front, so I decided it was the back, whether it was or it wasn't. Okay, and this time I think I'm going to put this on first because I didn't put it on first last time, and that was a mistake. So this is where I said the tweezers would be kind of helpful, because I don't even have big hands and I can hardly do this. I don't know what someone with really big hands does. So I'm putting it down. It actually went faster and easier this time, maybe because I did it before I glued those on. So that I'm just pressing down for a second. Now, there is a kind of a hang on. When this went through the cutter, why is that so far behind? There's a little bit of a thing there that makes it look, you can see the air through it maybe? I think you can. There's a little bit of a thing there that makes it look like it's really a bow and that one half is folded over the other half. The problem with that is it also makes it very gentle. Or not gentle, what's the word I'm looking for? Fragile. Makes it really fragile. So just because I wanted to be safe, I took a little thin piece of Scotch tape, turned this over to the back side, and just put that Scotch tape there. Well, my other one must have been skinnier, where it wouldn't show. Okay, just to make sure that if that gets handled a little bit, that's not going to just break off. Then I decided that these really should go on the back, so I flipped that over to the bad side, the not so pretty side, whatever you want to call it. And I put the first one on, held it down for a couple of seconds, but then I wanted to flip it over to make sure it kind of looked right. There's a little bit of glue showing there. I can get rid of that with my fingernail probably. I'm not going to worry about that too much. And then I turned it around, and this time I'm having to put the glue on the circular part, this part of that other bow. So this is one of those things I'm going to tell you, and I really do mean it. This is a little fiddly, and some of you might be looking at that and say, yeah, nope, not me, not happening. If you were to die cut a bunch of these, and I know I keep saying this, but seriously, just like sit down in front of the TV. All right, hang on. Now I'm going to use this little itty bitty clothespin to just hold that, because I don't want to press it too much, because with my hands, which are bigger than the clothespin, I might end up crushing that, and I would hate to do that. If you die cut a bunch of these and then sat down at the TV one night with your bottle of glue and your little clothespins or whatever, you could probably make 10 or 15 of these in no time. But you don't want to make one and then tomorrow decide you need another one, and then the next day decide you need another one or two. Just make a bunch of them. You can probably use scraps. I did. This was a scrap left over from something else. Great way to use scraps. Make a bunch of them and find a little box or something that you can put them in where they won't get squished, and then you're ready to go. Make them in different colors or whatever. So those are really cute, and I think I will be using those in my display that I'm going to be doing. So they're just really cute, and I wanted to show you how that worked, because it took me a minute or two to figure that out. All right, then the other die that I kind of wondered about, and I'm still sort of wondering because I'm not thrilled with, I have questions about how it worked, but it could be me. So if anybody's watching and sees that I really am not understanding something, please feel free to tell me. So there was this one, and I figured it had something to do with snowflakes. That made sense to me, okay? However, it measures 4.5 by 1 3/4. So if you're making a traditional card, like this kind of a card, then it would cover the whole part of that. But if you wanted to make a card going in this direction, which is what I thought I was going to do to demonstrate this, then you kind of have a bit of a problem because it's not long enough. So I wish they'd made it 5.5 so that you could use it no matter what direction. Now you probably still could by moving it over. So what I did, and I'll show you what I did first, just because sometimes we have to admit when we make mistakes. So I wanted to have a dark color behind, a dark color in the front and a light color behind, so that you could see the snow through it. And yet, I punched out holes. I used this rather to die cut those holes in the dark color one. No, in the light color one. You see, I still don't know what the heck I'm doing. All right, so I wanted my card to go this way, but when it goes that way, this is short by like half an inch on each, a quarter of an inch on each side. So that was a problem. So I would have to change my mind and make my card go this way, or try to line it up and do it a couple of times, but that could get weird looking. So the idea is that, let's say this is my blue sky, and I didn't have any balmy blue. Well, I did, but I was trying to use scraps, but this is boho blue. So you put this with the die cut, the holes cut in the darker color, over some white, and it looks like snow is falling in the sky. Are you seeing that? Looks better in person. Boy, there's such a delay right now. I have no idea why that's happening. And something's showing up and I'm afraid to click on anything. Okay. So that I think is kind of cool. I do think that could be kind of cool, and then you would make a whole card that way. So maybe you'd be making a card with this card base, but maybe you want, excuse me, maybe you want sky showing through, and I don't know if, well, I guess it wouldn't matter what color your card base was. Hang on. So we're going to do this to 4 inches. I'm not worried about the 5 1/4 part because it doesn't need to go all the way down, if that makes sense. Of course, now I did this and I can't use that, and this one I think is too big. Let's see. 4 is right. 5 1/4. Okay. Let's just see if I have even the slightest idea of what I'm talking about here, because it's very possible that I don't. So yeah, you would need to have, nope, here we go again. You would need to have like this would be cut off, and then, all right, I'm thinking here, because it's not coming to me. It's not coming to me easily. So this would have to get cut off. Okay, so let's say I cut this off. This whole thing could be just a huge mistake on my part, but let's see. So what I'm envisioning, and again, I won't make the whole card tonight. So let's say this is your card base, and this is your layer. And I don't think I cut it to the right measurement. Let's see. That should be 5 1/4. And if it is, then that might mean that this, which I thought was a scrap, this might not be right. So this should be 5 1/2. And it's not. This is 5 1/4 too. There we go. So this is the wrong size. Not that anybody would know. You know what I'm saying? Nobody would know. And then it should be 4 1/4, which it is. So somehow this ended up being shorter than what it should be. So we'll just make this a little bit shorter too, and like no one will know. I don't want to make it too much shorter. Let's check this out and see. I'll take off somewhere between 1/8 and 1/4 of an inch. And this will still fit in our envelope, and it will be just a little bit smaller. And again, no one will be the wiser. I guarantee you, no one's going to say, oh no, it's 1/4 of an inch too small. Not going to happen. It's also not scored very well, or not burnished very well. I've just been trying to use up things that are just laying around, and I thought this was a full card base, but obviously it wasn't. Next time I'll measure. Okay, so card base, and then this, and then the sky up here. I probably should not have cut that off, but it might not matter. And then another piece here. Or, because I don't want that to be so, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want it to be so straight. So if I had another piece that I could put there, and I actually do, maybe, I know you're saying, what is this woman doing? She doesn't know either. I don't know if that makes you feel better or worse, but she doesn't know either. I've got an idea swirling around in my head, but it could come crashing down at any moment. So what if we had, I don't think I have enough room to cut that. So what I'm thinking is something needs to be cut so that it's kind of wavy-ish. And maybe it really is this, but I can't make it too wavy-ish because I don't have enough paper. So let's just say I cut this very lightly with some waves, like, you know, snow mounds or something. And then I wouldn't even really need this whole piece of paper underneath it, just so you know. All right, so now that doesn't look quite so straight and so weird. I don't know that I would use red for the background for this card either. I might use something else, but maybe red, I don't know. And then what if I were to take the stamps? Well, stamps might be too big for stamping. That sounds really stupid. The stamps might be too big for stamping. Okay, what if I were to take this stamp and stamp some of these trees in the background? But they really can't exactly touch, well, maybe they could touch the sky. No, I don't think they should. On the white, okay? And then maybe a couple of these die cut that could go over the white. So this more like in the background and this like it's more in the foreground. I don't know. I'm going to have to play with that. If you have any great suggestions, please let me know, because it's a little weird, and I know it's a little weird. But I'll have to figure it out. Maybe I just need more snow or less snow or something. But I think you could make something really pretty, and I love how this shows through. Now, gluing this could be a disaster. And again, if I was a smart cookie, what I would have done is I would have put sticky paper, but that's not what it's called. What the heck is it called? Besides sticky paper. It's right here somewhere. Oh, and I have a confession. You know that we retired, Stampin' Up! Retired our vellum. And I love to use vellum, especially at Christmas time. So I bought myself some vellum, and I will be using it. And that's just all there is to it. There's my confession. If anybody's listening from Stampin' Up!, I'm sorry. But you did away with vellum, and us demonstrators really love the vellum. So bring it back, please. There you go. You heard it here first. Well, it must be that I put it away in a safe place. But anyway, we've got the adhesive backing. So in other words, I put the adhesive backing on this before I die cut it. And then when I die cut it, all of the adhesive that's where the holes were comes out with the holes, and this becomes a sticker. And since I have this extra piece, I just might do that because I don't know how the heck I would glue this. I could use my, my silicone mat, and I could use a sponge, and I could sponge the glue on the back, and that would probably work okay. Although sometimes I'm not happy with the way that turns out, to be very honest with you. I feel like I don't get enough glue on it to make it stick, but that's just me. So I'm going to play with this one, and I'm going to have something to show you. Maybe tomorrow, maybe the day after. I'm kind of getting back to normal, but between the surgery yesterday and the car breaking down on Saturday and not having a car all weekend because they didn't even know that my car was there until they showed up on Monday, my to-do list is now like 3 days long. Yeah, so that's just crazy. All right, so there's this, which I won't even call a card yet because it's not. And then there's this, which I will call a card because it kind of is. Well, that one is. And then there's the other one that I've already lost. Have I lost it already? How is that even possible? How is that even possible? Oh, there it is. And then there's this one, which could be a card and will be a card, but it isn't a card right now. And then I showed you how to make the bows, which I just think is like so cool. So cool. And they're very three-dimensional, so they'd be great on a package. They'd be great. If you have a mini Christmas tree at your house, wouldn't these look cute hanging on that? Just take some gold string and glue it on the back and hang them all over. Or you could even, possibly, stick them on depending on how bushy the tree is. If you have one of those little pencil trees, it would work. Use these to put it on. And it doesn't matter that they show because they're kind of cute. That's just one thought. I want to make them because they're cute, and I can see myself having a whole bowl of them and not knowing what to do with them. So be careful for that. Try to have an actual purpose in mind when you make them. But they're just too cute. I can't not make some. All right. Thank you very much for watching. Sorry for being just a little bit scattered today, but like I said, it's been quite the week. I'm really, really hoping that next week will be more normal. And I will see you 1 week from tonight at 7 o'clock. So thanks for watching, and thanks for those of you who catch it on the replay. Chelsea Powell, hello. Happy to see you, too. See, I never know who's watching till I stand up and look at the camera, because the camera tells me stuff that the computer doesn't. All right, good night.